Oklahoma as the number 1 seed. Fine. No issues there. Georgia, number 2. Cool. Ohio State, number 3. You have the North Carolina Tar Heels in the 4 spot. I speak for all the Gamecock Nation. We say we would love nothing more than for you to be right, my friend. But break down your playoff picks. Who's your national champion? I'll tell you, Brett, I've got Georgia winning the whole thing. I don't know. There's something that tells me it's Georgia's year. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I got the Dogs taking home the trophy. But tell me about your playoff picks, and really, I want to hear about that North Carolina pick. I like Sam Howell too. I like Mac Brown. I think most of us just, kind of like with Alabama, just assume, it'll be Clemson, Alabama. Clemson will be in the top 4, but you have neither of them making it and have UNC in the 4 spot. Just talk about that. Break down that for me just a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely the headliner. It's getting a lot of attention, and it's not just me throwing stuff against the wall. I mean, in 2019, I was the only publication out there to call for Alabama to miss the playoff, and that came true. Last year, I was one of the few to call for Oklahoma to miss going through their transition, and that came true. So some hits here and there. But with this year, real quick at the top with Georgia, we hit on. With Oklahoma, finally they have a defense to pair with that elite offense, and it's the second year with Rattler, second year with that great offensive line. I think they run away with the Big 12. And then with Ohio State, just one of those playoff dynasty programs that reloads every year. The difference being there's really no challenger this year in the Big 10. So even if they trip up once as a young team early, they're still going to ride through a 12-1 and make the playoffs. So it comes down to this 4th spot. Many would just pencil Clemson right in. I think, in fact, every single magazine out there has Clemson in the playoff. What I see there is a couple things. Well, first, the changing of the guard at quarterback, going from the first overall draft pick in the country in the NFL to a new guy who's only started 2 games. And yes, did DJ play well in those 2 games? He played fine. But there's no guarantee that this changing in the guard doesn't miss a step. There's also no depth behind him because a lot of those great backups transferred out. So not just that, but ETN is gone. The offensive line took a step back last year that was uncharacteristic of Clemson. And then their defense kind of got exposed big time by Ohio State, something we hadn't seen from them since 2013. But now specifically to UNC, what I really like is their offense. I spoke with their offensive coordinator, Phil Longo. He's an offensive genius, the way he's taken his scheme. Also similar to Lincoln Riley, which then I guess would be similar to Beamer if you want to, go transit the property. But it's air raid pass concepts on the outsides, downhill run game in the middle. He's got a Heisman candidate, Sam Howell. I'm sure everyone's heard of him by now, but making incredible jumps from first to second year. I look for another one here in his 3rd year. It's an NFL caliber line up front. They average 325, 6'5". It's all very veteran. And then on defense, what's really stood out to me that had held them back a little bit was the defense the last couple of years. But the way that Mac Brown has brought in these top 15 and top 10 recruiting classes, these 5-star kids were starting to break into the lineup as true freshmen last year as the season was going on. Because remember, they didn't have a preseason or a summer. They were kind of like battling through the roster as the season was going on. They're all experienced now coming back in 2021. And I love what they have. And the last bit on them is their schedule. This really stood out to me. It's a very manageable schedule where their big non-conference game is Notre Dame, who I think is going to take a massive step back, losing 4 linemen to the pros, Ian Book gone, defensive coordinator gone. So I think they win that one. They missed Clemson in the regular season, and their big threat in the Coastal is Miami, who they beat 62-20 last year. So they're going to be favored in all 12 games, Vegas-wise. If you're into the betting angle of this, they're going to be favored in all 12. Now, can they avoid an upset? We'll see. I think they go 11-1 in the regular season and get to that play-in game, if you will, with Clemson, a win-and-in scenario, and they have the firepower to do it. So I'm taking UNC. It's way off the grid, but really not so much when you look at these win totals and look at these Vegas spreads game to game. They're going to be favored a lot this year.